I just celebrated my 5 years since treatment finished, which is a massive milestone with triple negative breast cancer. I would say once I got to that 3-year mark, I really did start to, breathe a bit easier. And now I'm at the 5-year mark. I feel that I really have closed a door on not necessarily saying it's never going to come back, because there's always a possibility. But I don't think I believe mine will at all. So I'm able to go through my days, do things like this, and not have that fear, and be able to have conversations like this to kind of try and let others know that maybe were in my shoes when I was terrified, would I make it to this point, that I have done. And it wasn't always easy. I think, you're often told, which is true, and I think there is a real balance between hearing truths and how to kind of balance that with not letting people live in such fear, right? But we are told if it's going to come back, it comes back sooner with triple negative breast cancer. So not living in fear, but knowing that's a possibility is a very tough balance. And I think that life after treatment finishes, especially for triple negative breast cancer, because we often don't get given any other drugs, we are just left to hope and pray that our bodies, don't grow cancer again. When you're diagnosed with breast cancer, there's so much that's going on. There were some conversations around fertility, menopause, that treatment was going to plunge me into medical menopause. Was I done with my family? And at that point, I didn't think I was. I had always thought maybe I'd have a third child if I could. But at the same time, I think getting treatment for me felt a lot more important, and I had 2 beautiful children. So the decision was definitely made at that point to have Zoladex, which is a drug that tries to protect your ovaries whilst you're going through treatment. And so I think at that point I was like, okay, medical menopause, but there's so much you're going through. I had no idea whether what I was feeling or experiencing was from the chemo, from the immunotherapy, from COVID, or from the menopause. That came quite low down in many ways, because I was just like, well, I'm just feeling so awful anyway. I'm not going to know what's what. So the menopause kind of was not thought about for me. Finished treatment, was able to see if my periods would come back, and they started to show signs, but then I had a big scare around my ovary screening. So because I'm BRCA again, it increases my chances of getting ovarian cancer. Having seen my sister go through her treatment for ovarian cancer, I was being screened, and I just had a panicky day, and I think it just solidified to me I'm okay. I think I would rather not live in the fear of getting ovarian cancer than wait and see if my periods come back to see if I can have a child. Like I say, I was in a really fortunate position that I'd had 2 children at that point. So I had my ovaries, a oophorectomy, my ovaries and fallopian tubes removed just before my 40th birthday. So it was happy birthday to me. Here we go. You're in the surgical menopause now. The surgical menopause, again, I feel like so much more needs to be spoken about for people who are in the menopause and can't take HRT. I don't take HRT. I just navigate it as best I can. And lots of the time, things are okay day to day. I kind of got used to how my brain works now, which is very different to pre-cancer Carly. But it's the long term, I think, that weighs a bit heavy. Being in the surgical menopause at 40, hearing so much stuff around HRT being really good for longevity in women, or your bones, your brain health, all of this stuff, your heart health. And it's that I kind of sit with being well, what can I do? So yeah, I'd say it factors into a lot of my mental health after breast cancer is navigating the surgical menopause young and trying to be as healthy as possible and not, we talk about living in fear of the cancer coming back. Try not to live in fear of like the menopause causing me these big problems in life. So yeah, we walk a very tight rope after cancer treatment of trying to kind of be very grateful, and I am so grateful to be here and to be here 5 years later, but also make room for like everything that I live with after treatment. My Instagram was public when I got diagnosed. I was already sharing quite a lot. Like I said, I was doing some breast cancer awareness. I've always loved writing. I feel it's important to talk about lots of things that need to be talked about, like mental health and all these things that I feel very kind of passionate about. And breast cancer was one of those things. Like, I'd lost my favourite person to it, my mum. I'd watched what that disease had done, and I didn't want anyone to have to go through that. I know how important research is, and clinical trials into new drugs and all sorts. I truly believe if my mum was here today, she would be alive with the treatment that is available today. So when I was diagnosed, I remember having the conversation with my husband and being like, well, how can I not share about this experience? Because I'm already sharing quite a lot of vulnerable stuff. So that first post saying like, I've got breast cancer was, click post. And it was definitely like oh God, here we go. What have I opened? And it couldn't have surprised me more what actually was opened. Like, it was a community that just welcomes you and supports you. And I didn't know at that point how much I was going to need that, because obviously at that point lockdown was not even a thought. That was January 2020. But come March, all my connections, all that stuff, I have a friend in Cornwall. I've never met her in person, but we were going through the same treatment, maybe like 1 or 2 weeks apart. And we just bonded right through this experience. And there was no in-person groups. There was no in-person meetups. All of this stuff was gone. And it just connected me with the most incredible people that understood what I was going through. And I was so lucky to have my sister. We spoke every day. We videoed every day. I really was so lucky to have her too. And I really don't take that for granted. But yeah, to find people going through triple negative breast cancer and be able just to post like, okay, this has just happened. Does anyone have any experience with this? Or I'm having this side effect. Like, the community is unbelievable. And I just, it's as so many of us always say, it's like worst club but best members. And I've made some of the best friends through the cancer community, who are just a daily part of my life now. People were saying, a good thing about triple negative breast cancer, it does respond well to chemo. So I was just like, bring it on, give me this chemo. And I always thought of chemo as a positive thing as well, even when it was really, really kicking my ass. Like, I still would like visualize it as like a positive, goldeny, magic-y liquid going into me, finding all those microcelles. Like, that's just how I dealt with it. Treatments are improving. Triple negative breast cancer needs way more treatment options, because if it comes back, we just don't have enough. But I think because I try and always find a positive, and not in a toxic way, I'm very much like, there's grief, but we can also have that and words. I just wanted, it's in the word, triple negative breast cancer. It's there. You're just like, okay, what are the positives to this? There's got to be some. And I found some silver linings, and I continue to find silver linings. 5 years on, none of us know what's happening, but I have definitely found throughout all of this that trying to be as present as possible and find joy in moments and connections, and getting to be here for me has worked. But again, I'll never know why it has. And sometimes I've lost a lot of friends, and a lot of friends to triple negative breast cancer in particular. It's hard not to feel guilty that it has worked for me, but I know that that is futile. And none of my friends would want anyone feeling guilty that treatment's worked for them. It starts with like after treatment finished and sharing online, I've felt very, very passionately about being BRCA, having the BRCA1 gene mutation, doing as much as I can to support the BRCA communities, triple negative breast cancer communities. So I co-host a monthly BRCA meetup, and very much just do whatever I can in the community, things like this, raise awareness. And so a few weeks after my surgery, because of using my platform in that way, I was introduced to Dr. Sahil Mehta, who is the founder of Bloom 43. He's a local dad, and we just met as friends. I was very excited to be sat with a plastic surgeon, quite soon after a big surgery. And so we were just chatting. He was telling me about the work he was doing in this space of, it's a long word, supraphysiological preconditioning, which ultimately he was explaining to me is preheating your skin the night before breast surgery leads to better blood flow and ultimately better wound healing. Now, I just had a double mastectomy, and my bedroom was right by the nurse's station because there was such a high chance that I potentially would have a complication. I had a DIEP flap reconstruction, so I have tummy tits. My tummy tissue was used to reconstruct my breasts, but there was a chance that I wouldn't, it wouldn't take, something would go wrong. So I was fully aware that there was every chance there could be complications, that I could have to get necrosis after. And so the work he's doing was to try and reduce that. And he'd found through research that he'd done, preheating the skin reduces complications, reduces hospital stays, and reduces your chances of needing to be readmitted. So I was like, sounds amazing. And we carried on talking for years, it's a new platform. And so he was at the stage of it being new. But when he got to the point of the company being able to go to the next stage, he approached me and just said, I'd really like you to come on board officially as patient champion. So I stepped into this role. I guess that it's grown in time what that role is. But I really love it because one part of it that I've been really massively involved in is bringing the patient voice to everything that we do at Bloom 43. And Bloom 43 is a platform. It's a device that's not available in the UK yet, but is coming. It's available in America, and it's an app. And the app is free, and it's and I've worked really closely with a patient focus group to make sure that app has everything within it that you would potentially need ahead of breast surgery. My own experience with my breast surgery, like I said earlier, it was like a distant thing. I was like, radical surgery, okay, but I've just got to deal with chemo. So by the time it came up to like, okay, step in breast surgeons and plastic surgeons and all sorts of conversations, I was so overwhelmed. I just felt so disempowered. And everything that we're trying to do at Bloom is the complete opposite of that. It is to help people to feel way more confident as they enter into their surgeries, to be able to prehab themselves. There's a lot of talk, we all know about rehab, but prehab is like preparing yourself. So the device prepares your skin, but there's ways we can also prepare our bodies, whether that's with movement or nutrition, feeling stronger as we go into them, whether it's with mindset. I often talk about how I wrote a letter to my breasts because mastectomy surgery is really, as a woman, a very personal thing for a lot of us. And you know, I was that kid that really, really wanted to get boobs, and suddenly, like, you know, I'm saying goodbye to them, and they breastfed my babies. And I think for me, that had been such a cathartic experience, and it had helped me approach this surgery and have a more positive relationship with my body afterwards. So yeah, that being the patient champion of Bloom, just come back from New Orleans, where I was at a survivors coalition there with like 500 breast cancer survivors. Obviously the work I also do in the BRCA space, I'm forever meeting people who are facing these surgeries and feel terrified by them. And that's what I was, terrified about the surgery I was going to have. So this free app that we're always on our phones, we're right there. We have a really long dwell time. People are on the app for over an hour because they're just taking in all the information that's there, and it's really digestible. So when you're overwhelmed, just to get digestible information, there's a community, there's a whole prehab program 4 weeks before your surgery and 4 weeks after your surgery. Just give everyone we all just want a little bit of control when life feels like it is completely and utterly out of our control. Download Bloom 43 would be my first bit of advice, because ultimately I had a really long time to prepare in terms of getting my diagnosis and then my surgery being 6 months later. But again, I didn't prepare. Whereas if I'd had that, maybe I would have been looking at videos, and I didn't realise you could even have a reconstruction with your own tissue until it got to that conversation. And then there was the whole thing of, but it's a longer surgery, I'm going to be in hospital for longer because of it, so should I go with implants? Like, there's so much of that decision making. And after chemo, I was just like, my brain was like, I don't know if I can make any decisions, let alone big decisions about body changes. So that would be my advice, is if, no matter how long you've got, some people get a diagnosis and then they have to have surgery very quickly. There's still really good things that you can do. The prehab, it takes you until 1 day before your surgery, a week before your surgery, 2 weeks. So I would just say to feel as empowered as you can there. Speak to people. I think we do show and tell events at Future Dreams House in London. And again, I didn't have that access to that because it was lockdown. But I have modelled at those events, and I have seen women arrive and they leave and they look like a different person, because you can almost see that kind of fear has lifted a bit, and it's tangible. You can see it, and that's incredible. So I think that they're not just in London. People, there's charities that specifically do kind of those types of events, but those would be my key things. And take lip balm in because my lips were really dry after. I packed a really good bag. That was where I felt I could kind of really control things. I spoke to a friend, actually, someone I'd grown up with when I was first diagnosed. She was out the other side. We haven't seen each other in person, but we've spoken over the years. I had a few conversations on the phone with friends who'd had breast cancer when I was first diagnosed. But that conversation in particular stuck out because she was TNBC. If you can, I would say try and find somebody who's come through, who can just give you that hope that she gave me. It's kind of my why, I would say. Well, not kind of, it is my why. I sometimes think I sound like a broken record. I'm still talking about breast cancer and I've finished treatment 5 years ago. But I know I was looking for that. So, even down to, I remember when I had to cut my hair really short, I'd follow people and be like, right, they finished treatment 7 months ago and their hair's that long now. Like, even just finding people, even from that point of view, like I was always looking to others to help me to know that I was going to be okay and I could get through this. My advice, as I said, would always be maybe to look for some silver linings, to find charities like you who are specifically helping people with triple negative breast cancer, because I think you need that individualized. We are a subtype of breast cancer. There are lots of subtypes of breast cancer, and I think each subtype of breast cancer needs their own personalized support. And I wish in a way I'd had more of that to start with, but I didn't know charities like yours existed. So yeah, reach out to you guys.